Hello everyone, welcome to another Photoshop weekly tip. My name is Adam. Over the next 10 weeks, I'm going to create some video tutorials on things that I think every beginner Photoshop user should learn more about. In this first week, we're going to talk about layers. Whether you're working in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, layers is something you will have to learn. There's just no way around it. So I think that I've come up with a great visual reference that'll help you better understand how layers work. So let's get started. I think it would be hard to find somebody who has not used sticky notes at some point in their life. In short, layers to me are like sticky notes. And if you've ever used sticky notes, this will make a lot of sense to you. Here we're looking at a pack of sticky notes from two different views. In the first view that I have labeled as layers, you'll see that our pack of sticky notes is a side view. On the other side, we have a second view of the sticky notes, which I call the workspace. And this is our top view. How does sticky notes have anything to do with layers? Let me explain. Here on the right hand side, we have our layers panel. I'm going to take that out just so that you could better see what we're dealing with. Now that I've isolated this layers panel, you could see it a little bit better. In my office, I have a pack of sticky notes just like this. I want you to imagine you have this exact same pack of sticky notes in your office. And I want you to imagine yourself holding this pack of sticky notes in your hand. If you were holding that pack of sticky notes in your hand and you were looking at it from the side view, you would be able to see all of the different colors within that sticky note pad. Each layer, each color, you would be able to see when you're looking at it from the side view. The moment that you take that pack of sticky notes and you set it down on a table or a desk and you look at it from directly overhead, the only thing that you can see at that point is the very top sticky note. You can't see anything else. Now I want you to imagine that same analogy as it relates to Photoshop. Here in my layers panel, you'll notice that I've created several layers. These layers have colors that match the pack of sticky notes that I have on display here. Now I've done that on purpose to give you a visual aid. You'll notice that this pack of sticky notes goes from pink to purple to mustard, etc., etc. And our layers here, going from top to bottom, have the same matching colors as this pack of sticky notes does. What that means is if I were looking at this pack of sticky notes from the side view, I can actually see each color that this pack of sticky notes has. But the moment that I look at this sticky note from directly overhead, the only color I can see is the very top color. Layer 3 is my side view, and this is my top view. If I look at it from directly over top, I can only see one color. But if I look at the sides here displayed as layers, I can see that this pack of sticky notes is much more complex than just one color, which happens to be pink. Now that I understand the side view from the top view, we can do a lot more to our layers. I can rearrange the stacking order of these by clicking and dragging. So now what I see is a purple and then the pink is here. I can also turn these layers on or off by turning off the eyeball. The eyeball represents visibility. So with an eyeball is checked, that means I can see the layer. But because it's the very top layer, that's the only thing that I see over here. If I turn that layer off, I will now reveal the pink layer that's underneath it. And if I continue repeating that process, I will begin seeing each layer as it stacks in this layers panel. I'm going to turn these layers back on. But that's not all we can do with these layers. I can delete a layer by either hitting delete on my keyboard or by clicking and dragging this layer all the way down to our trash can. That would delete the layer. I can also make copies of a layer. If I were to select this layer, and you'll know that it's selected because it'll be highlighted in blue. If I were to right click on the layer, I could duplicate the layer. It'll ask me to rename the layer, and I could choose to do so, or I could just leave it as stated here that it's layer 1 and it's a copy of. I hit OK, and now I have a duplicate of layer 1. Listed here, layer 1, which was the original layer, and layer 1 copy, which is the duplicate of layer 1. I don't need this layer 1 copy, so I'm going to delete it by clicking, dragging it to the trash can. Let's get rid of it. Not only can I delete a layer and rearrange my layers, I can also rename the layers. If I were to double click on the word layer 1, I could come in here and rename this layer. I'm going to call it mustard to represent the color that it is. Again, if I double click on the word layer 2, then I can come in here and change that name to whatever I like. In this case, I'll rename it to the color of the physical layer, which happens to be purple. I can also create what we call layer groupings. Groupings will help us keep our layers better organized. So if I were to click on one layer, hold my shift key down and click on another layer, that would highlight the two together. And by hitting Command G on a Mac or Control G on a PC, that will actually create a grouping. And if I were to open this folder grouping, you would notice that the two layers that I had selected are inside this group named Group 3. I could also, now since they're in a group, I could turn the eyeball off on that entire group, which would therefore turn the entire grouping off. And by doing so, when I have it turned off, that's going to show me the very next layer, which happens to be this blue layer 6. So we can duplicate layers, we can rename layers, we can delete layers, we can arrange them by clicking and dragging, and we can group them together in folders so that we could better stay organized. These are just a few basic things that we can do with layers. Any one of these, you are well on your way to working with layers and therefore getting fantastic results when working with your photographs in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. Please be sure to check back with us next week when we continue our lessons, Layer Styles. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and we look forward to bringing you another Photoshop tip every Wednesday.